So for step 22, front dampers 1, well, you can see we're going to need to do pretty much the same thing that we did with the rear shocks. We've got our cylinder pieces, we've got O-rings, which in this case they're X-rings, and then we've got our piston rods. We're going to need to oil those up. You're going to need to use pliers or shock pliers if you have them. So there are all of the parts that we need, our E-clips, our X-rings, and our piston rods, and of course all of the shock pieces. So I'll set this up and let's put it together. So first off, let's work on our piston rod, and we're going to put the E-clips on. Now, again, like we did with the rear, what I like to do is I like to get the clip sort of inside the hole there, and then use my finger so that the E-clip can rest on it, and then snap it into place. That makes it a lot easier for getting that one on. Then we're going to grab our V10 piece, sit that on top of there, and then we're going to grab the other E-clip, and of course same sort of idea, only it's got its own resting spot, and we can grab this on either side and snap it into place. So there is our piston rod ready for installing into the cylinder. Now, before we can do any of that, we've got to get the blue X-rings covered in oil. So, bit of a messy job, but this is how I tend to do it. I'm just going to put some oil on there, then run it around between my fingers and my thumb, and we'll put that one in there. Grab another one, do the same thing, and rub it around between my thumb and fingers. It's just so it's nice and covered, and we'll stick that inside of there. So now I'm just going to wipe my fingers down of all that excess oil, and what we're going to need to do is we need to get this W1 piece on. So we're going to screw that into place and try and screw that down as much as possible, making sure that it's nice and tight. Then we're going to grab our piston rod again, and you can see that they want you to oil the entire piston rod. So we're going to do that. Turn it a bit. Do it again. There we go. Making sure that it's nice and covered. You don't have to go too crazy. I've probably put on a bit more than I normally do, but this time around I've done that. And now we're going to take this and we're going to find the hole down at the bottom and pull it through. So that's that part. Now I'm just going to clean my fingers off just a bit. Now, in my case, I'm going to use my shock pliers. I'm going to put this on either side of here, making sure I've got a nice firm grip. And now we're going to grab our V2 piece, and we're going to spin that on all the way. Just like that. Because it doesn't say that there's any specific distance, so you can just turn this all the way. And there we go. So that is all you have to do for step 22. I've done the same on the other side, which you can see is a match. Just to make it easier, not much point in seeing the same thing. So that means that step 22 is complete. So we can move on to now step 23 and work on front dampers 2 and fill the cylinders with the oil. So for step 23, front dampers 2, well, this is where we're going to fill those cylinders with the oil, and then we're going to use the oil seal to basically push the excess out, and then we'll clean it all up and put on the top cap, and we should be good to go. So there are the oil seals, there's our top caps, and of course our shocks from the previous step. So I'll set this up and let's add the oil. Okay, so we have everything we need here. So I'm going to grab our cylinder here and we're going to fill this with the oil, and I'm going to go right to the top. Just like that. We've pulled the piston all the way down. That's more or less the top. Let's see how this works. So obviously the whole point is we need to just push this slowly, and you'll see bubbles start to form. And you want to go through this process as much as possible to remove any of the air that's down there. And this should slowly push the air to the top. Now, when it comes to really tiny air bubbles, I'm not too worried about it. Depending on the oil, some will remove the bubbles themselves all the way, like you just won't see any. But this oil, the harder one, what I've found is that the air bubbles don't entirely come to the surface and pop and disappear. So I can see movement of air down below, and I can see that the air is getting pushed to the top, but the bigger air bubbles are popping. The smaller ones are not, if you can see that. And I mean, it's not much, but the tiny, tiny, tiny air bubbles aren't doing much of anything other than just sort of coming to the top. So I'm good with that. And you can see on camera how tiny the little bubbles are that are still sort of floating around. But I'm not worried about those, and they're not popping, they're not really coming to the surface, so we're just going to leave that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab a paper towel. I'm just going to circle it around for the moment. And we're going to grab our oil seal, and you'll just see that the oil is going to push out all the way around, and the excess is going to run down the cylinder, which is okay. And we've got the paper towel in place, so just going to go around, clean it out, make sure that that's still nice and flat. And I'm just going to clean as much of the excess off the cylinder as possible, which seems like it's pretty good. And now we're going to grab our cap. What is it? The W2. And we're going to put that on top and screw it down. And tighten it up. And I might use that just a bit. Let's see if I can tighten it just a touch more. But there we go. There is our cylinder. And as I've shown before, it kind of acts like a gas chamber once it's all sealed properly. So that ends up being step 23, because I've gone ahead and done the other one. There wasn't much point in seeing the same thing twice, but you can see that with it being sort of a gas chamber, they're pushing back. So that means that step 23 is complete. So now we're going to move on to step 24, where we're going to add the springs, but we're also going to add the shocks and attach them to the chassis. So in step 24, attaching front dampers, we're not only going to finish putting together the dampers, we're going to actually install them onto the chassis. Which is quite an interesting design, obviously. So this is going to be very cool to put together. So there are the springs, and there are the cylinders and the other pieces that we need to put them together. So I'll set this up and let's put them on. So obviously the first thing we'll do is let's put these shocks together. So we're going to grab one of them here, and you can see that they want you to use the V6 piece. Now the interesting thing is the V6 piece, you'll notice that one side has a couple of dots on it, one side has more. I don't think it really matters which way this would go on, but because this seems to be the flattest side, I'm going to go with, you see how this side's got all the dots, this side's got only two? I'm going to go with putting it on that way as the top. So I'm just going to push that on there, and then we'll put on our spring, pull it back, and we're going to put on our V5 piece. And there we go. There is one of our front shocks complete. As this is a very simple step, same again, I'm going to use that piece facing down, grab our spring, compress, grab the piece, slide it on, and voila, there we go. So there are our two front shocks ready to go. So now we need to grab our chassis. So if we grab our chassis here, and maybe try to do it the same way that they're showing, you can see, and maybe we'll do this side first, the way this is going to go, you've got the bottom is facing up, and then this one is facing down on top of here. So knowing that, you also notice that the way this piece is, it's got to sit that way. So that is, you can see that's the squared off one. Of course it doesn't really matter, the squared off ball connector. This one was the round one. That's what's going to end up attaching to this, and then we pop it down onto the bottom. Now I don't think it's going to matter which way we do this, but let's see what we can do here. So we know this has to be snapped on, and it does show you using pliers for this. So I'm going to grab these, grab the ball connector end, there we go. And with this one, we're obviously going to have to turn that in. Now the way they're showing that adjuster piece, the end bit that sticks out is facing towards the outside, and that's going to end up popping onto there. Now whether I can pop that on with my thumb, I can. Okay, so there is one of our shocks in place. Such a cool design. A first for everything, but that is very, very cool. So let's do the same with the other side. We know that that is going to sit that way. That's going to sit over top of that. I'm going to grab the pliers, and based on how that's going to go, maybe the easiest way to attach this, well, let's try it this way. There we go, it's on. And again, I'm going to make sure that that piece that sticks out is facing outside, and make sure that's there. Yes, and this we're going to push with my thumb, snap it into place. So there we go. There are the two front shocks installed. I really think that's pretty cool. And we'll see how that all attaches to the front suspension, but what a cool design. Okay, well, that means that step 24 is complete. So now we're going to move on to step 25 and work on front section parts, as they call it.